Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that our district clerk leads us in the pledge, please.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. May I have a motion, please, that the agenda of April 9th, 2013 be approved as submitted?
Second.
All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, that the consent agenda be approved as submitted, and that is the approval of minutes of March 19, 2013, acceptance of recommendations from the Committee on Special Education, acceptance of recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education, acceptance of recommendations from the Superintendent for Personnel Changes, acceptance of the BOCES bid for art supplies for the period April 1st, 2013, to March 31st, 2014, the risk assessment report from the internal auditor for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. May I have a motion, please, that all of these items be approved under the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Treasurer's report. Attached to your board packet is the Treasurer's report for the month ending January 31st, 2013 and February 27th, 2013. May I have a motion, please, that the Treasurer's report, including the cash report, general fund cash report, general fund revenue status report, general fund budget status report, school lunch fund cash report, and school lunch fund revenue, and expense budget report for the month ending January 31st, 2013 and February 27th, 2013 be approved?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Special reports, and I will turn it over to Dr. Grimm.
Great. Tonight we're going to have an introduction of a future member of our staff. We also have a special presentation regarding our 9/11 Tribute Award and talk about our TIG Advisory Committee update. Okay, we have gone through an excellent collaborative search process to find an assistant superintendent for instruction. I had very high standards for the type of person that I wanted to be the instructional leader for our core business. That is number one what we're here for. So we need to have the best. And I believe we have found that in Mr. James Pfeiffer. And he comes to us from the Star Point Central School District, where he's been a principal. And before I get to saying a few things about him, I do want to commend the interview team and also my Assistant Superintendent, Patty Gallagher, for organizing the entire process and facilitating a very detailed and lengthy process over the last couple of months. But these are our members of the team. It's Tom Putnam, our principal at the high school, Gwenda Buckman, our special education director, Sonia Bosco, our teacher and union president, Liz Brown, teacher, Jill Jones, teacher, Lynn Rainey, our professional development director, Marilyn Moyce, clerical staff, and Jonathan Aronoff, student, Gwendolyn was also on the committee, Jennifer Allen, parent, Phil McCulloch, parent, and Shannon Cleverly Thompson, a parent. So a nice, diverse group of stakeholders. And these are some of the comments that we got from the feedback sheets that they give us regarding Jim. Likable and energetic personality, good listener. He was able to articulate his points clearly. He was direct and to the point, very knowledgeable about data analysis, very good with building relationships, collaboration, important to listen and create trust so it's safe for people to disagree. Collaboration is key. Understanding that some of the real challenges for teachers, understanding the real challenges for teachers with inclusion, data, time, staff, planning, evaluations, and also that children have social and emotional needs as well as the socioeconomic differences that they face. And I do believe that he will make a great addition to our team He has a background and experience and strategic vision that I think is aligned to where Penfield is headed and how we want to get there. And I'm looking forward to his strong interpersonal skills, his knowledge of instructional leadership, and also his focus on excellence for all children in a whole child way. So it's a diverse, eclectic experience in education. So with that, we have James, who's here with his wife, Darlene. If you'd like to just kind of come up and just say, you could say a couple of things. Sure, grab the microphone.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Education and Dr. Grimm, Patty Gallagher, as well as the entire interview committee for their consideration for me for this position. I can tell you that we are absolutely ecstatic to have this opportunity to become a part of the tradition that is Penfield, the success, the student achievement, and also to bring my wife and our family back here to the Rochester area. I thank everybody for the consideration, and I'm just ecstatic to be here. Thank you.
Right, well, welcome back to the Rochester area. We are thrilled to have you back here. Board members, item 2 under special reports is the approval of the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction Employment Agreement for 2013-2016. May I have a motion, please, that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Steve Grimm, approves the probationary appointment of the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction effective July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. And I turn it back to Dr. Grimm.
Great. Okay, some of the things that make Penfield such an outstanding place to be is to have teachers like Lisa and Assistant Principal Kevin Swartz, who accompanied Lisa down to New York City, and she's going to talk about her experience there. She won an award regarding her lesson plans that were related to the 9/11 disaster, and she was able to go down and be honored right there at Ground Zero. So, Lisa, if you could come up, and Kevin also, to share what happened, how was it, and
Thank you, Dr. Grimm, and board members for having us here. We appreciate the opportunity. Before I turn it over to Lisa, I just wanted to give everybody some background on how all of this came about. In early January of this year, Winton Buddington, the building principal at Bay Trail, passed an email along to me from the 9/11 Tribute Center, which is comprised of a number of family members who lost loved ones on 9/11, and each year they're seeking out candidates in the teaching profession who are doing things within their lessons to keep the memory and the spirit of 9/11 alive. So as soon as Winton had shared that with me, I immediately thought of a mini lesson that I knew Lisa had been doing for a number of years. I'd seen it in action, knew it was a very, very strong lesson for sure. And one of the things that impressed me about Lisa's lesson, as many of us know, in terms of the curriculum that we teachers need to present to children, it's often very rigid, whether from either a state curriculum or even a local curriculum. Lisa's instance is no different, but she has a lot of autonomy over how that curriculum is taught, so I was thrilled that she had picked that topic of 9/11. So we submitted the application along with some student work. The feedback from students were very positive, and I wasn't surprised. I know Lisa was, but several weeks later we received word back that Lisa was selected one of 8 teachers nationwide to be recognized by the 9/11 Tribute Center for her work. I was thrilled to accompany Lisa down to New York City several weeks ago for a ceremony. It was very moving, right at Ground Zero at the Tribute Center. Got to meet many of the families and first responders. So I know that myself and everyone at Bay Trail was very proud of Lisa for her efforts. And I know the kids truly do enjoy not just learning about reading strategies, but also about important events such as 9/11. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa, who will share some of the details with you about her lesson.
This lesson has a personal, excuse my voice, number one, I'm a little hoarse tonight, but this lesson has a personal meaning to me because without giving away my age, I used to work at the World Trade Center as a sales rep in 1980. So when I first started teaching strategic reading, which is a part of every eighth grader's core curriculum, it's designed to solidify their literacy skills. My first lesson that I ever taught for this course was the 9/11 lesson, and it really fell into my lap. We subscribed to the Read magazine, and it was the 5th anniversary, and the first magazine front and center cover was excerpt written in play form of 102 minutes. That was designed for middle school students. So I took the opportunity to talk to the social studies teachers to make sure I wasn't overstepping their boundaries, and they said, please teach it. It really, even though it's an older lesson, I've been teaching it for 8 years, it matches the Common Core standards right now as it is a complex text and it is nonfiction. The reading skills that are addressed are background knowledge, visualization, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And every year I teach it, I'm amazed there's always a Penfield connection, whether it be from a parent who is in New York City or an aunt and uncle that day to a student whose uncle was a New York City firefighter and lost his life in one of the towers, saving thousands of lives. It is a 2-day lesson, and the students are immersed in the history of the event from a bulletin board of a timeline that I set up to the books from the library that I have in the front of the room that I book talk on 9/11. And after activating their background knowledge with a quick write to try to make connections of the day, they read the play 102 minutes. We start out reading it together, and then they finish reading it silently. And they are to visualize and analyze the events that they read on a graphic organizer. Afterwards, we see some video clips. The History Channel did a wonderful job from the book, 102 minutes. And they actually get to see interviews of people that they've read about in the clip. So then we conclude with a very short writing piece where they express and evaluate their thoughts and feelings about 9/11. And along with the honor of going down with Mr. Schwartz to accept the award and a plaque, the district won $500, which I have asked to be spent on more books for the Bay Trail Library on 9/11. And the sponsor of our award was the Brooke Jackman Foundation. Her sister was there that day to help us receive the award. And it was a very hard day for her, but her sister had a love for literacy, and she died in the towers at, I think she said 23 years old, wanting to be a social worker. So it was a very moving day, and it's very touched to be awarded.
Well, we have Sue Coomer here to talk about an update with our TIG team. We have an outstanding
We'll use that
trauma, illness, and grief team. Susan is wonderful in her facilitation, and she is known regionally as a leader in this field.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the time tonight. I know it's a busy agenda. I'm here, I try to stop in annually, trying to give you a little update, and I'm here today to talk about 2 accomplishments of both the district TIG advisory and the building teams. As you know, but folks at home may not be aware, I'm just going to do a little recap of what TIG is so it makes sense to folks who are listening. The district, in partnership with the Monroe County Office of Mental Health, has trained a number of members of our mental health teams, counselors, nurses, in fact, the vast majority of them, and many administrators as well, to respond to what we call TIG, or trauma, illness, and grief events. This is a very human business, education, and kids and staff and faculty and everyone in between experience grief, trauma, loss, and though we haven't had to face an incident as large as the Sandy Hook, we feel that we've put in place a large response team, in fact, the largest in the county, of trained professionals who can come together at both the building level and the district level to help address the types of supports that students and staff need in response to an event. Just to put it in some quantitative context, this year, today, we just received our 33rd TIG event for the year. We've had multiple losses, as every district does, and multiple events, whether it's an illness or a parent death. But we can't forget the little ones, the kids tote in their backpack every day, their puppy that dies, the cat that got run over, whatever it might be. We have folks trained in our district to help support kids and help them return to meaningful learning as rapidly as possible. So with that said, in that context, I just wanted to talk a little bit in representative of the District TIG Advisory about two initiatives that we've really been working hard on this year. For those of you who don't know, the TIG Advisory is comprised of stakeholders throughout the district. There are representatives of food service, clerical, transportation, faculty, staff, all stakeholders. And we've come together last year actually, and did what we call quality indicators. So we took an assessment, gave it out to the building teams and said, look at this, check off what you think we're doing well, and tell us where we need to do some improvement. And to a building, when the District TIG Advisory reviewed those results, it was evident that we just had done wonderful jobs internal to the district, but hadn't made collaborative connections with our community partners. And when that became evident, we realized that a goal for this year would be to do just that. So in the fall of this year, on a wonderful November day, with a host of Father James Schwartz and a companion of Dr. Mark Sansucci, we attended a luncheon of the Ecumenical Council and hosted by Father Jim Schwartz at St. Joe's, and met with many of his colleagues right before the holiday. How they had time for us, I'm not quite sure, but they squeezed us in. And we asked for them to designate a liaison who would be willing to come and attend District TIG Advisory meetings, have a sense of the pulse of what's going on in the district, and to partner with us on endeavors as we move forward to create a more mentally healthy community. And we got an overwhelmingly positive reception, and a very enthusiastic Reverend Caleb Matthews from the Penfield Wesleyan Church, who is now a member of our District TIG Advisory, and we're delighted. So that was our first outreach. And our second, Dr. Grimm and Dr. Sansucci reached out to Tony LaFountain, our town supervisor, and Tony entertained our request with enthusiasm and identified a volunteer within his organization, Mr. Chris Bilo, who's the director of Penfield Parks and Recs, for those of you who aren't aware. And Chris is also a member of our District TIG Advisory. So again, we feel very fortunate now that we have really encompassed families in many of the places that they're going to be, and children. So we figure, a student, heaven forbid, but a student suffers a loss and he happens to be on a little league team, we can reach out to Chris Bilo. Or we can reach out to the clergy and make sure that the family is supported when school is not in session. So that was our first piece this year. It's a big collaboration, and as I said, we're very, very delighted. The second is, we put in your packet, I believe, tonight, just a hard copy of it, and certainly, it's your bedtime reading, but it's just a one-page piece, and it shows you the kind of collaborative work that happens when stakeholders from all walks of the learning community come together, very much like the interview process for the new ASI. But what we did was we realized that one of the struggles that the building teams have is, and probably you've had it as a friend or a neighbor, is reaching out to a family when there's been a tragedy. Whether it's a diagnosis of a terminal illness, whether it's a death of a spouse or a child, picking up that phone and offering support is a real challenge, and we know that. We also know that the best person to do it very often in a building is the person who knows the person who suffered the loss the greatest, has the tightest connection. And that may be a building principal, it may be a second grade teacher who knows them very well. So what we decided to do was to provide some guidance for those willing souls who reach out and say, yes, I'll be willing to be the liaison to this family during this very, very difficult time. And we gave them some guidance. It's not a definite checklist of how-tos, but simply you might want to ask about X, and please make sure that you ask what information we can share at the building, what they would like to be shared, what they would not like to be shared. So we tried to lay it out so that an individual, as I said, who has picked up that phone has some sense of what they're going to be responsible for actually sharing at the end of it. So those two major projects have led us through this year. And I'm going to close on our excitement for next year. We're now with our community partners. We've been investigating a concern that was brought to us by the clergy, but also shows in our youth risk survey, and that's relational violence. Certainly that's a trauma that we see in our stats, and we have significant, wonderful educators in health departments who are doing, and in counseling departments and social works and psychologists and administrators and teachers who are doing great outreach to kids about staying safe in dating situations and how to deal with violence in their home. But we know that the stats are still there. So we're not sure what the project will look like. We have a May meeting where we're going to set some goals as to how we're going to move forward. But we're really kind of excited that we can partner the town, and I'm thinking how powerful that synergy will be, the churches and the school district, to move that message of peaceful relationships forward in Penfield. So that's next year and more to come. So thank you for the time tonight.
Oh, thank you, Sue. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
I was just going to add that this is where you can see, as the board, it's setting one of the primary goals, one of the three major goals, partnership development. So that spurs some of this philosophy about reaching out, and that's exactly what happened here, reaching out, and then now you can see some of the results manifest before you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening.
I'm sorry.
Oh, John.
I just had a question. So one of my clients I've worked with is Strong Employee Assistance Program, and they're the first responder for the Rochester Police Department and the Fire Department and a lot of the municipal departments. So if you do need any type of liaison for anything like that, they're the biggest by contract in doing that, and there may be some synergy that you could match up with.
And I'll be in contact with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in session. Visitor speaking time. We have indication that Mr. John Brankus would like to address the board from 3762 Deer Meadow Run, Macedon, New York. Can you please come to the table, use the microphone so that people who are at home can hear you when they're watching the video. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. My name is John Brankus. I'm a resident of the far east side of the district in Walworth. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is the serious problem I see with the new Tier 6 pension plan. As you all know, the amount of contribution that has to be made into the state pension plan approaches about 20% times salary. The state controller, by law, has to maintain the pension plan so they're solvent. And the pension plan last year, Tier 6, was supposed to have been a 401k type of pension, which was not done. The public employees worked behind our backs and destroyed the 401k pension. But it is possible to convert the Tier 6 pension into sort of a 401k plan. The way you have to do that would be to have a roughly a 10% salary reduction for Tier 6 employees. And this doesn't sound very pleasant, but New York State is in a very difficult situation financially, and it has to be turned around. And this is one way to do it. I would like the school board members to start talking about something like this together in private to see what ideas they have, and they may call me if they have additional questions on that. Okay, I have some material I found in my file from NFIB, which I'm a member of the National Federation of Independent Business People. And they have a kind of a history of educational problems in New York State that are well worth looking at. And I think the school board members and administration will be surprised after reading this material that I'm going to leave with our superintendent. One of the items I noticed, they pointed out that in their study about 6 or 7 years ago, that for every 10 teachers that are teaching in classrooms, there are about 7 teachers that are doing other things. What other teachers are doing, I believe, has to be examined very carefully to make sure that we're getting productive use out of these people. And it appears that we just have too many people to get the product out the ship and dock door. So that's a kind of a serious problem there. And some of the items that NFIB pointed out is kind of interesting. We have the nation's highest tax burden, which stifles business and stifles our jobs. We have record Medicaid spending. Education funding is the highest in the nation, with results that are far from the nation's best. Even about a week ago, Governor Andrew Cuomo mentioned that in one of the newspaper articles. He mentioned about the high cost of education in New York State. The tax rate here, we live in the Monroe County, Wayne County area, and our taxes are essentially for property are the highest in the nation. And this has to be seriously looked at. The public authorities in New York are a shadow government that issue mountains of public debt. We have a notorious campaign finance system that has been called a form of legalized bribery. The nation's largest infestation of trial lawyers who impose a very large billions of tort tax that we all pay directly or indirectly in everything we do and buy. And there have been a lot of people been leaving New York State. They're voting with their feet. They're leaving the state. And a lot of us parents will be finding is that our children aren't going to be living where we're living here in New York State. They're going to go elsewhere because there's more jobs elsewhere. We have neighbors who came from Davis County School District in Utah, and their total property tax was $860, and they came to Walworth, which is very high tax like Monroe County, and their taxes were about $6,000. Also in Utah, we have another couple that are friends with ours. They have a 3,000 square foot house, and they pay $2,000 in property tax. In Utah and Davis County School District, they have 1 teacher for every 20 children. And friends of ours in Florence, Kentucky, which is a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio, they have roughly, say, 1 teacher for 16 children. And the numbers, they go on, and we have to investigate other districts to see what they are doing, good or bad, that would enhance our education here and also try to help with our very high cost. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your coming tonight and sharing those comments with us. You're going to share the material with us? Great. We'll make sure that all board members get a copy of it. Thank you for coming. Next, we move on to our student representative. Hello, Gwen.
Hello. So first thing coming up in April, tomorrow is the last day of the quarter, the third quarter. So there are officially 43 days left until Regents Week for high school students. So yay. Although APs are fast approaching, so not so yay. Basically, April 19th, 2013 is a National Day of Silence for LGBT, and it just raises awareness for bullying and harsh words and the loss of life or injuries that have come from LGBT bullying. And what people do is you can like register and you wear a sticker and you have a day of silence so you don't talk and teachers recognize you. So that is April 19th, which I believe is Friday, the Friday before junior prom. And if people are interested, the website is www.dayofsilence.org. And then the next day, Saturday, is junior prom at Eagle Vale. And the tickets are on sale until Thursday at 2:15. Although people should know, and parents especially, for all the high school dances, you need a dance contract signed by the student and the parents. So that's just for nice dancing on the dance floor. And then pause before you post, which we did, which SDM did last year, is coming back, although we're not exactly positive the official day yet. We're still working things out with Jostens is the company that does it. So that is coming. May 23rd is the day of caring, and that's where the volunteer organizations, seniors, student council, and if there's any other spaces available, then juniors. But basically 150 kids go to 2 city elementary schools, and we do work outside and work inside, so that's painting and lawn, and some kids get to be in classrooms to help teachers, do anything they want basically, so we're there for a day to help in any way we can. And then the day after that is the tentative date for Mr. Graves and Mr. Wallen have brought in a speaker from a Nike swoosh campaign. It's called Behind the Swoosh, and there's actually a video on YouTube if people are interested. And it's just to raise awareness about where our garments come from in America, the labor practices, and et cetera. So that'll be open, I think, for all social studies students, but they'll post that more. AP week is May 6th to the 10th and the 13th to the 17th. So it's a busy time coming up.
All right, thank you. Board members, any questions or comments? Yes.
Gwen, I just want to let you know that my husband and I attended the play, Hello, Dolly, and kudos to all the students who worked on that, all the adults who helped. It was brought to my attention that during the performances, I think there's only one adult who was in the orchestra pit, and everything else was run by the students. It was very, very impressive. It was very enjoyable, and I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Gwen. We now move on to superintendent's report. Back to Dr. Grimm.
Okay, I will share some student staff honors, and then Dr. Sansucci will take us through the benefits presentation and the total budget presentation. A tremendous redesignation for Bay Trail Middle School being a school to watch. It has been redesignated as a 2013 Essential Elements School to Watch following its original designation in 2010. The prestigious designation recognizes Bay Trail's continued commitment to enhancing its school program and practices, and also recognizes Bay Trail for having a model educational program that is consistent with the Regent's policy statement on middle-level education, the essential elements of a standards-focused middle-level school, and the National Forum's School to Watch criteria. Principal Buddington will be attending a national conference in Washington, D.C. in June and presenting to other schools across the nation about what's happening here in Penfield at Bay Trail. So it's quite an honor, and it's quite an exemplar school. My compliments to the staff and administration there. We have a Science Olympiad. 3 Bay Trail Science Olympiad teams participated in the Midwestern Regional Competition. 1 team took first place overall for the 2nd year in a row, and the other 2 teams finished 4th and 11th out of 23 teams. And the team earned medals in 26 out of 48 events and will continue on to the state competition. Wonderful to see students excited about science. We had a Golden Apple Award winner. Penfield High School social studies teacher Jennifer Marin was honored with Channel 8's Golden Apple Award for being an outstanding teacher. She was nominated by student Josh Karuba. Channel 8 will air the presentation on April 23rd at 5:30 p.m. on Channel 8 and at 10:30 p.m. on Fox News. And news anchor Kevin Doran was here, and it was fun to watch because he loves to go up and surprise them. And Jennifer was definitely surprised, and Josh's kind words were very touching. It'll be a nice event to watch or record. Our robotics team continues to amaze. In Boston, the Team 1511 Rolling Thunder captured first place at the competition. The team also received the Gracious Professionalism Award and the UL Safety Award. They will continue on to the first championship competition April 24th through 27th, and I believe that's down south. I'm thinking, I can't remember. Is it Atlanta? Yeah. St. Louis. St. Louis, yes, the Archers. That's incredible. What a great group of people. It's a great example of partnerships with many different companies. It's wonderful. So now I will turn things over to Dr. Sansucci, who will take us through the final portion of the budget. So at the end of that piece, you will have had presentations in the last couple of months on all of the different facets of the budget, and then we'll get an overall look at the total budget. And I turn this over now to Dr. Sansucci.
Thank you. Tonight's presentation begins, as all our presentations on budgets do, with a review of our district goals, at three primary goals around academic excellence, partnerships, and fiscal responsibility. So tonight we've certainly heard about academic excellence and partnerships, and we know that we need to offer those outstanding programs in a manner that reflects both the high academic expectations of our community and the financial values as well. So we've been at this for some time. Just to review where we've been, the board began formal budget presentations in January, continued at every board meeting throughout the course of the year. As you know, the budget process itself actually started earlier than that. So in December and even earlier, we began the process by looking at enrollment projections, our audit from the previous year, closing up and beginning to move forward. Tonight, we're nearing the end, so 25% of our budget is contained in the benefits lines of the budget, and we'll be reviewing that tonight. We'll also take a first look at our completed budget. There's still typically between now and closing some fine-tuning that'll get done, but this is that first and earliest look. We need to adopt the budget. The latest legal date will be at the next board meeting on April 23rd. Actually, that's Tuesday. The latest possible date's that Friday, but for all practical purposes, we need to adopt at the next meeting. Tonight, again, this is the budget graphically displayed. So we've gone through the slices with the exception of the one with the red arrow. So tonight we're going to be talking about that. It's for retirement system costs for both employees and teachers' retirement. All members of the school district are obligated to belong to one of those two retirement systems: Social Security, workers' compensation, and health insurance. And this portion of the budget, unlike the portions that we've been looking at as we've gone along, is up 13.2%. That's $2.7 million. It's a $23 million overall budget. So that $2.7 million is 13.2%. This is in detail what that looks like. And as you can see, the dramatic increases are in the area of employees and teacher retirement system costs. So employee retirement system costs up 26%, although that's a smaller dollar amount than the teacher retirement system costs, which is up 1.2 million in total, or approximately 30%. The other increase in this budget, of course, is for health insurance. The underlying trend in medical care and in health insurance is at approximately 10%. As you know, we belong to a consortium that has held those costs down over the course of the years, but we're not exempt from those increasing costs, and that's reflected here as well. To return for just a moment, though, to the and this is to Mr. Barankis's earlier comments, to the retirement system costs. Retirement system's funded by three distinct components: the employees' contributions, the return on the investments that both systems, the ERS and the teachers' retirement system, make, and then the difference for them to be fully funded is made up by the municipalities and by the school district. So for teachers' retirement system, for them to be fully funded, their internal rate of return needs to be 8% over time. They anticipate making approximately 8% on their investments. And as you can see, and they use a rolling average, a 5-year average, to make that calculation. As you can see, when the market, right now, the calculations that are used to determine whether the system's fully funded are picking up 2 bad years, and particularly the disastrous 2008 year when the system lost about 1/5 of its value. It's 2.3% average rate of return instead of the 8% that they need to be fully funded. The difference is being made up by increasing rates to schools, and that's expected to continue. This graph shows the teachers' retirement system rate, which is expressed as a percentage of salary over the last 51 years. So for many years, for many years, from 1961, 62 into the 80s, it was at and around the 20% mark. Based on returns in the stock market, it began to drop precipitously. It plummeted to nearly zero in 2003, and it's been working its way back up since then. Certainly, that 2008 year did not help at all, but you can see where we're headed. So those costs are borne directly by the school district. This graph shows the cost for an employee, a teacher who was hired at the bottom of the market, essentially, when the rates were the lowest. What's happened to that teacher over time? So at hire, we would have paid $215 per year in retirement system costs. This graph assumes that he or she would get normal raises, and we apply the rates to those salaries across time. And as you can see, we'd now be paying $12,000 for that same employee only a few years later. So the costs have been dramatic. They're expected to increase. This isn't a particularly good piece of news in this story, but it is sort of, but it is a very real piece of our future as we go forward. This is what the entire budget looks like I'm sorry, not the entire budget, but the benefits budget in its various categories. And as you can see, the increases are really in, the most significant increases are in teachers' retirement and employees' retirement. Workers' compensation, disability insurance, a much smaller portion of this budget, and the lion's share, of course, made up by health insurance costs. To turn for a minute to the entire budget, that was a review fairly quickly of the benefits portion of the budget. Where we've been in terms of increases in the components of the budgets already presented, as you can see that we've been able to restrain increases. So 4 of the 5 budgets already presented are below or at 1%. The capital portion of the budget was negative by 10%. BOCES up about 5%, driven mostly by students in programs, students with special needs. The benefits portion of the budget we just reviewed, it's up 13.2. So in total, when we look at this, remember the benefits portion of the budget, about a quarter of our total spending. It's a 2.4% increase budget to budget. That looks like this. It's about $2 million. So $2 million more in new spending going forward into the 13-14 year. Again, this is what those components look like. Graphically, you can see just the increase in most of the bars going across board, student support programs, buildings, grounds, transportation, debt, fairly level, but the increase again at the benefits portion of the budget. And this emphasizes that $2 million increase, if we net out of it, new retirement system costs leaves $370,000 across the rest of the budget. That's 0.4% increase in the budget with the CPI at about 2. So in terms of controlling costs that are within our control, I think we've done a good job, but we do need to, we are not, those payments, those retirement system obligations are not optional to us, so we'll need to be able to make those payments. That's been very much part of the news. And the other part of the news, and I'm sure you've seen the comptroller's discussion about fiscal stress. He was just upstate talking about municipalities in need. And a lot of that has to do with the reductions in state aid that have happened over the course of the last few years. I've presented on that in more detail at previous meetings. But this year, there were state aid increases. Total state aid, and this is new information for all of us, this has passed since the last board meeting. So overall, state aid to schools increased by about 5%, by about $900 million. In various categories. As you know, there's a lot of fairly complicated formulas by which they distribute this money. Foundation aid's the biggest single category. It's the aid that we can count on year in and year out. It was intended to, foundation aid was chosen as its name not by chance. It was intended to be foundational in terms of funding for schools. It went up by 1%. The thing that really was changed, I think, in the formulas for this year was the gap elimination reduction. So this is the easiest way to think of this as a negative state aid category. So when the state began to suffer its fiscal woes, one of the ways that they were able to control their budget was by not paying schools money that had been promised to them. So they instituted, it's been called a number of different names through the years, but the current name is gap elimination reduction, and essentially here's a formula that says here's the amount of money that you're due, here's what you won't get, and here is the net. So a reduction in that category means an increase in aid to schools. So of 24%, a very significant change in this year. High tax aid was, and all schools suffer from the gap elimination adjustment. So that is a significant change. It's not evenly distributed though, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute when we get to Penfield. High tax aid was increased by 9%. Penfield does not receive high tax aid. The combination of our debt, of our tax burden rather, and our wealth doesn't qualify us for it. At the end, all but 24 school districts received an increase with building aid, and without building aid, all but 8 districts received it. The reason that building aid is in and out on this is because very often changes in building aid, for example, if a district is doing a capital project and they have a brand new bond issue come on, those changes can swing and mask other underlying changes in the state aid. So very often you'll see in the paper the percent increase or decrease with and without building aid so that districts can understand, or so that voters and us can understand what's changing there. So of those 24 districts, that received, 24 districts did not receive an increase. 8 districts did not receive an increase without building aid. In Penfield's case, our aid was reduced by a couple of fairly significant items. The full day K conversion aid is money that we are receiving this year because we converted. It's an incentive aid program, 1 year only incentive aid program because we converted to full day kindergarten. That's built into our state aid for this year. We're also losing building aid. So last year was the last year of bond payments on outstanding debt from many years ago. So that, as it comes off the schedule, the building aid is reduced. In the budget for this year, foundation aid was increased to Penfield by about $37,000, and our gap elimination restoration was about $358,000. That's 11% of our GEA. But remember, 24% of GEA was restored. So many districts, most districts in fact, received a greater share of their gap elimination reduction restoration than Penfield. It is new money to us. If it weren't for the full day K conversion aid, if it weren't for the building aid, we'd see that increase. The fact is we won't see the increase because the others are going down. And that's why we're on this list, which was part of the school board's alert discussing the state budget. As you know, they send out a flyer shortly after the adoption analyzing the increases, and as you can see, Penfield is one of those 24 districts, and Penfield's also one of the 8. So yes.
Mark, just to put in context, just in case the public doesn't know, I think there's 700 or 800 districts
Correct.
in New York State, so just so
There's
when you
about
see 24,
690 districts, something like
If you said
that.
that already, I'm sorry.
Yes. No, I did not. So, but those things are real. We need to take that into consideration. The state aid, we're estimating about $21.5 million for in-state aid for next year. That's about a 1.2 or 6% decrease. We are including in our budget ERP stimulus, and I need a better name, but that's Early Retirement Reinsurance Program. Essentially, it's federal stimulus money. This is a one-time revenue that we've not received in the past and won't receive in the future, but we need to spend it, so we are including it as revenue in our budget for this upcoming year. We use fund balance, employees' retirement system reserve. Other revenue is everything else in the budget, and we're including an increase of $346,000 in those other revenues. But at the end of the day, the levy of the revenue of last resort's the tax levy. So based on a 2.4% budget-to-budget increase, the tax levy at this point is estimated at 4.9%. That's $2.7 million increase. This is what that looks like split up. The real property tax funds the majority of about 60-some-odd% of the school district's entire spending. State aid and other local revenues are much smaller shares. This is what that looks like in pie form. As you can see, the levy is 66%, everything else 9%, and state aid is about a quarter of our budget. So state aid's an important component. But obviously the levy bears the majority of the burden. This is what the history over the last 5 years of that levy has been, along with the rates, just for the town of Penfield. There are 6 towns in our school district, portions of 6 towns, but the rate for the Penfield levy, Penfield is the single largest town, so we're showing the rate for it, and the others are similar, very similar. The levy is the amount of money we collect. The rate is how we collect it. So growth and assessment affects the rate. It doesn't have any effect on the levy. So I always want to emphasize that to make sure that it's clear. So over the last 5 years, we've had levy increases of nothing and a half, 0.8% in 3 of the years, 2.6% and 1.6% last year, for an average of 1.16 over the last 5 years. This year, we're estimating that 4.9 rate would return because of growth in assessments, about a 4.4% rate increase. So the rate in the town of Penfield would increase by that. On a 6-year average, then that changes that 6-year average to 1.8%. About 1.8% average levy increase over the last 6 years. Our maximum allowable levy is about 5.4%, not about. The adopted levy is below that, and the rate is below that as well. Again, just in summary, the short facts: 2.4% budget-to-budget increase, a 5.6% state aid decrease, levy at 4.9%. Rate at 4.4. That 4.4% rate increase turns into, for a $150,000 house with basic star, about $146 per year would be the impact, the out-of-pocket impact for that taxpayer. Next steps, we're still learning, obviously, about state aid. We'll continue to go through that. That's very new information. We'll continue to work on that. There are questions about pension smoothing and so on that will need to be addressed over the course of the next couple of weeks, over the course of the next week. I don't know, I do not believe and do not think that it's going to be available for this year's budget, but it may be something we want to consider for the future year's budgets, or not. I have some questions about the way that it's structured, but it's certainly something we need to consider. In the near term, at the next board meeting, we'll have a final review, any changes that we need to make between now and then, and we need to adopt to begin to go forward. We're in the process of scheduling quite a lot of meetings around the community with various interest groups. We're scheduling times where folks can come visit with us with the superintendent, rather, and myself and other interested parties. For coffee in the morning, for lunch, for dinner, where folks can drop in, ask questions. We'll also have formal meetings and formal presentations. We'll be presenting a schedule for that in the near future. The budget hearing, which is the last opportunity, the very last opportunity for a formal presentation of the budget. The budget by then adopted, of course, but the May 7th hearing is the last and most formal presentation of the budget in the required three-part style. That's on May 7th, and May 21st is the vote at the high school. So that is where we're at right now. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mark. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? John?
Mark, if you could go back to the, keep going back to the, right there. And I think it's important for the public, too, to understand, but, you know, really, when you look at the amount of the fund balance and you look at the total change in our budget, we have a flat budget, basically, and the fund balance is our investment in the future as we use it going forward. So I think it really, I mean, for the public, as you look at a budget, it's take that out and it's basically flat. So I think that's important for everybody to understand. And again, that's not something that we're, you know, playing with. It's just extending our opportunities, correct, for our future budgets.
That's correct. You know, it is, this is a difficult budget, and I think, as you know, we've been having lots of conversations about long-range planning. That's, you know, one of the impacts, one of the outcomes, I think, of the tax cap, because of the way it's structured. It puts very much a premium on looking forward and trying to project what your future is going to be. You know, unfortunately, one of the way that it's structured, you know, the district will, for some expenses, particularly those retirement system expenses, they'll be providing pressure outside the cap as we go forward that we're going to need to manage through. And we'll have to manage through that through the use of reserves, through the use of fund balances. There is no doubt that that's kind of over the course of the next 2-3 years, I think, what our future holds.
And the, you know, the pension balancing, today Moody's, who's the bond rater of the world, came out with an advisory against the balancing, which I think, we had talked about this earlier, but it may not be the right thing for us, but they're advising any school district, unless you're really in dire straits, that, you know, you're borrowing money that's going to cost you more down the line, correct?
Yeah, I have a graph, I have a model of it. I'm not sharing it with you yet because I'm not sure it's right. You know, we haven't, this is all very brand new. We haven't even seen a webinar. We're all trying to sort of figure out what it means. But there's no doubt that what it really means is taking a piece of today's expenses and deferring them into the future. We will owe interest on those deferred expenditures. And when we have to pay them back, they're paid back on top of whatever the rate is at that time. So it's, you know, when I graph what it looks like, it doesn't really look very smooth. What it looks like is a couple of flat years and then essentially a very, very bad year. Exactly. I had one of my peers sort of characterized it as it's a great plan if you're going to retire and not live in the community. You know, and I think that's kind of fair. I think that's what Moody's is saying as well. There will be, I think, districts that have no choice. And the hope is, of course, the hope is that Tier 6, which is a much less rich plan, and will begin to bring those costs down, that enough teachers, enough folks will come into it that they'll begin to bend that curve. But that's, there's lots of ifs in that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Barb?
Okay, I'm just going to ask it. It's above the 2% that everybody's going to read about, so how do I explain that?
Yeah, I will help.
Oh, thank you.
It is, the I didn't want to inflict upon you the 2% calculation one more time, but essentially 2% is, I think you will find this year, much broader understanding in the community that 2%, and not just our community, but all across the county, all across the state, that 2% is one component of that calculation. It's one number of about 7 or 8 moving parts. And it will be interesting to see if there is anyone at 2% this year. The pressures, we have unique pressures around state aid. The pension pressure is not unique to us in any way. And so I will be surprised. I haven't, obviously we're all in sort of the same moment in time, but I would expect to see increases across the state and county in excess of 2%. And that's going to help that conversation.
Thank you, Barb. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And this concludes superintendent's reports.
Yes, it does.
All right, board members, we are now on board business, page 3 of your agenda. Facilities, change orders. You have some change orders that are listed in your agenda. They have been reviewed by and are supported by architect Scott Jewell, project manager Gary Huffman, clerk of the works Jim Cordero, and assistant superintendent for business Mark Sansucci. May I have a motion, please, that the change orders that are in your agenda be approved as described?
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. We have an amended notice of the annual meeting budget vote and election for May 21st, 2013. A board member has resigned, therefore there is a third board seat that will be open. The following language will amend our notice to allow for a third board candidate position on the ballot. I'll ask, please, that we put the motion on the table, and then we can speak a little bit about that. Okay, just for the benefit of the public, I think I would like to read, what the change is. To elect 2 members of the board for 3-year term commencing July 1st, 2013, expiring on June 30th, 2016, to succeed Mrs. Barbara Bebyars and Mr. John Piper. And, this is our addition, the amendment, and to elect 1 member of the board for the 2 years remaining in the unexpired term commencing on May 21st, 2012, and expiring on June 30th, 2015, to succeed Steve Zalora. The adoption and we need to adopt the following proposition. So we have a motion on the table. As you know, we have received a letter of resignation from Mr. Steve Zalora over the break, and Steve has decided to resign because of increased responsibilities at work and because he felt he was no longer effective as a board member. On behalf of this community and the school district, we'd like to thank him for his many years of service and also for notifying us in time to include his position in the open election in May, which is really important. Just for the benefit of the public, I'd like to explain the process a little bit. A vacancy in a board of education must be filled in one of 2 ways: an election by the district voters or appointment, either by the board or if the board does not act within 90 days, by the district superintendent. If by appointment, the appointed member only serves until the next election, which means if we appoint someone today, they would serve only until May 21st. And if by election, the person elected serves out the remainder of the term of the member who resigned. In speaking with legal office, we looked at the timeline that we have. We are extremely close to the election, which means we would have to announce that a position is open, accept, letter of intent, people who are interested in filling the position. The board would need to decide and appoint someone, and then we'd need another board meeting to decide who the person is. We're really close to May 21st. And we are also so close that it's better for us to allow the public to choose a new board member themselves. We also have enough time because petitions are not due until April 22nd. Anybody still can pick up a petition and decide to run for the board. So taking in consideration all of these factors, we decided to leave the position unfilled until May 21st and open the third seat for election then. If filled by the May election, there will be 3 positions open at the election, 2 expiring terms, 1 vacant term. The 2 candidates receiving the most votes fill the longest terms. The candidate with the 3rd most votes fills the vacant term, but this person will take office immediately. In the event that we have an incumbent who gets, the lowest number of votes, then we'll figure out with legal office what we need to do in the best interest of this district. So, so that I hope explains the process to members of the community who are wondering how do we fill the position. And we did everything we could to publicize that the position is open. The notice, thanks to Marcia and Mark who worked over the break, we were able to catch it in the DNC to appear with 3 positions open. We have it on the website. We had a press release, and I saw it today in the Penfield Post that so people are aware that there is a 3rd position open. And I guess that's it as far as information. Does anyone would like to add something or ask a question? Yes, Karen.
To make a change, it says the unexpired term commencing on May 21st, 2012, and it should be 2013.
That is correct. Very good catch on your part. Thank you, Karen. All right, Camille?
Oh, I just wanted to also thank Steve for his many years of service. He was a great board member. He was a president for a few years. He served very well. I know that we'll all miss him, and our loss is certainly RIT's gain. I understand he's been made chair of his department, and he really felt that he needed to, that he wasn't able to fulfill his obligations here. I served with him for a few years on the policy committee, so I personally want to thank him for his work on that. And I just wanted to say that if he has any, I think he was on Monroe County School Board Association Legislative Committee. I don't know if they would allow, I would go on his behalf. We just need to fill issues in that way. But mostly just want to say thank you to him, and I'm sure I'll see him in Penfield at some point. So.
Thank you. Actually, Steve was on labor relations, and I'll have that later in the agenda, so thank you, though. All right, we do have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Thank you. 6 in favor, none opposed. Policy reviews. Policies for second reading and approval. Policy 7300, that is the Code of Conduct. This is here for a second reading. And 7550, Complaints and Grievances. This is also here for second reading. They have been posted on our website. Have we received any comments from the public or anything about it? No. Okay. So board members, may I have a motion, please, that policy 7300 and 7550 be approved as revised?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Policies that are here for first reading are 7551, sexual harassment of students, and 7552, harassment, discrimination, and bullying. Those policies have been through the process with the policy committee. We have discussed them, have had input, and basically the changes that you're going to find in them is here really to reflect the new language that is, that is in the laws, in the new law now. So this is really just the changes that you're going to find. You have copies of them. As is practice, they will be on our website for people to look at, and if we receive any comment, that would be great. So they will be back for second reading at our next meeting. Any questions that you have right now about those? Thank you. We move on to item D, proposal to begin a club. A request to begin a club has been received from Harris Hill Elementary School. Details, including objectives, activities, are outlined in the proposal provided to the Board of Education. And this is the club that is going to be started by the teacher, Jim Herman. And the name of the club is Guitar Enthusiasts of Harris Hill. And they will be meeting weekly, and they will not be fundraising. So may I have a motion, please, that the Guitar Enthusiasts of Harris Hill proposal be approved?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, I do have a comment, because I've had two kids who, we were very lucky they were in Jim's class, and wow, he uses the guitar all the time in his lessons and everything, so he's a very talented teacher there. So I think we're very lucky to have him start that club. So, all right, so all those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Approval of election inspectors, May 21st, 2013. Board approval of election inspectors for the May 21st vote is required. All inspectors are eligible voters of Penfield Central School District, and they are all listed in your agenda. May I have a motion, please, that the board approve the inspectors above for the May 21st, 2013 budget vote and election?
So moved.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Board approval of the chairperson of election for the May 21st, 2013 vote is required. The chairman of election is an eligible voter of the Penfield Central School District. May I have a motion, please, that the Board of Education approve Brad Saleh to serve at the election of Board of Education candidates and vote on the budget on May 21st, 2013 as chairperson of election?
So moved.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. President's remarks or presentations, 2013-2014 annual vote and election information. The board adoption of the budget is scheduled for the board meeting of April 23rd, 2013. Petition packets for open board seats are still available and are due to the district clerk April 22nd, 2013. Meet the Candidates Night is scheduled on May 1st, 2013 at 7 p.m. at Penfield High School. The budget hearing is the last public opportunity for a resident to become informed about the budget at a scheduled Board of Education meeting. The date for that is Tuesday, May 7th, 2013. The vote on the budget and board election will be held on Tuesday, May 21st, 2013. That's first, remarks that I have. I also have received an email from Dr. Putnam from Penfield High School. He is looking for board members to introduce National Honor Society evening to be there to say a few words on behalf of the board. If you are interested, if you could please send me an email tomorrow, that would be great so that we can get back to him as soon as possible. It is on May 9th. And I am also looking for a board member on May 16th to fill in the position that Steve has left for St. Joe's meeting at 5 p.m. Barb, I see you indicating interest already. Okay, very good. So you will be there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. There is another meeting at Monroe County School Board for Labor Relations on the 24th, and I put that on my calendar, so I will be able to be there to fill in for Steve. Unless, Camila, you want to go? I see you're very disappointed.
Taken, it's fine.
Okay.
There's concert introduction or anything?
Well, we do have our concert introduction, and concert season is starting, so look again at that schedule. Make sure that you are available on those evenings. All right. Under new business, we have item A, June 25th board meeting. So we've had, a little bit of discussion at agenda setting, and, we started introducing the idea, do we want to keep that meeting on the calendar? Have you given it some thoughts? What do you think? Okay, I see this, and I see this, so, okay.
Are we
Barb.
thinking, we're thinking of
Canceling the meeting.
altogether?
Yes, it happens after graduation. It's right at the end.
Works for me, because I'm going to be at Lake George, so,
Thank you. All right. John?
I agree.
Okay.
I concur.
I agree. I just have a question. Does that fit within our board guidelines of having the required number of meetings per month that fits within that we have in our handbook and are stipulated by law?
I looked up on education law. I actually did not think to check the handbook, but education law says we have to have at least one a month, so we are within that requirement.
Okay, very well. So board members, we have decided now to cancel the June 25th board meeting. All right, organizational meeting date. You have in your agenda a suggested calendar for next year for the board meeting starting July 1st. And the organizational meeting, some of us are going to be out of town. So we are proposing a calendar with the organizational meeting being on July 11th, which would be on a Thursday. So it is definitely out of our norm, which is usually Tuesday, but this is enough notice for all of us and for the public to know that that meeting is going to happen on July 11th, rather than July 9th. So how do people feel about this? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so organizational meeting then is gonna be on July 11th. All right, thank you, and it's on a Thursday. You'll have plenty of reminders, I'm sure, about this. And you have that board meeting schedule that was also in your agenda for 2013, 2014. Any comments or anything about that?
I just have one question about that. This year, we had 2 June meetings, and it looks like next year you're already sort of maybe pre-planning not to even schedule one for the end of June. Is that right?
I drafted 2. I was waiting for input
Okay.
from this meeting.
So when it says June 10th or 17th, it will be one of those 2, but in any case, not one after graduation next year, unless we need to. Sometimes I think for Patty Gallagher, we need to approve employees or something like that, new hires. Okay. All right, I'm just saying, I think that sounds like a good idea to pre-plan for just the one if we're, so,
I
looks
think
good.
with the way that the calendar is going to work out, I think that would, if there was one on the 10th and the 24th, that's still before graduation, because I believe graduation next year is the
It's like 25th.
26th or so. Yeah, it is. Right. It kind of stretches back out into the late 20s for the end of June. This year, it's early 20s, so if it was the 10th, then you could do the 10th and the 24th.
With the option of canceling the 24th if we don't need it, or would we need it?
17th.
Oh, I thought you said
If you
24th.
just did one, you would do it on the 17th. If we did 2, we should do the 10th and the 24th.
If we do it on the 17th, that means, okay, between 27th to the 17th, that's almost a month.
Yeah.
Not one single board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 in June is nice because there's things happening. There's personnel, and there's things like that. This year, just when it's after graduation, it's not good.
Yeah.
So next year, I would say the 10th and the 24th would probably be the best. I can talk about it with the senior cabinet, too, to verify that. I know that we can pre-plan the personnel items and the financial items, but it is a challenge to try to pack all of that into one meeting in June, I know that.
Okay, so we're adding the 10th and the 24th then for June?
Mm-hmm.
I would say so, yeah.
Very well. Board members, you're agreeable with that? Okay, excellent. So I think we have a board meeting scheduled for next year. All right, and last item, before break, I got a call from Dr. Grimm. As a result of our workshop, we are putting together an ad hoc committee for communication regarding the budget and the election. And, and this is also because of all the feedback we got on conversation on education about explaining the budget to people who have not been attending every single board meeting and looking at every single PowerPoint. So we are putting this little committee together with Nancy Bradstreet, Dr. Grimm, and I'm not sure who else. I've asked for John Piper to be on the committee, but I also would like to know who among the other board members would like to be on the committee. We definitely could use another person if somebody is interested.
I'm interested if you need another.
Camilla? Okay, very well. So you have 2 board members on the committee, and we rely on you to
Great.
schedule meetings and all of that kind of stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other business, board members? Thank you. May I have a motion, please, that the meeting be adjourned at 9 p.m.? All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you.